Thanks very much. So, thank you for that. We had an earlier exchange, Minister, about the report that the Senate completed with Senator Walsh, who was representing the government at the time. You indicated that there would be a government response. Do you have any further information?
Look, I don't, unfortunately. I did seek that information. I haven't got that to hand. I think it was a little bit different to how you had presented that report, in that there were dissenting comments from government senators, which I don't think you did indicate when you made those comments. But if there's anything further, I will update the committee through the course of the day.
So, what is the government's position on responding to Senate inquiries? Do you still respond? Do you still intend to respond to Senate reports?
Yes.
You do? Okay. So this particular report into ASIC was tabled in July 2024.
Yep.
So it's a year and a half ago.
Yes, and I have sought information for an update on that, Senator Bragg. It's not in my portfolio responsibilities, and if I'm able to provide an answer, I will.
So I know how much you like orders for production of documents. I know this is one of your favourite.
Well, I like reasonable. I like them being used as they have been used in the past, not as they're being used now. I think they're being abused.
Okay. But, well, let me ask you this. Would it be reasonable for the Senate to request the government response to the ASIC report? Would that be a reasonable OPD?
Well, it shouldn't need to be provided through an OPD.
Well, it wouldn't need to be OPD.
It should be provided, and I'm trying to find an answer about when that will be, Senator Bragg. Okay,
well, there was an OPD on this issue in September, which you provided information to the President of the Senate about. Do you remember that one?
There's been hundreds of them, Senator Bragg, and I can't recall each specific one.
You don't recall? That's fair enough. I didn't think you would. So that OPD contained a letter from the Treasurer, which I should probably table for the purposes of this hearing. Who do I give it to? It's a letter from the Treasurer to you, Minister, which, before it disappears, I'll just try and remember what it says. But it basically says that the government hasn't prepared a draft response to the ASIC report. So that was in September this year. So that's some 13 or 14 months after the report was tabled. So there wasn't a draft in September, October. Has any work been done since that date?
I can't provide you with an update, Senator Bragg. I am seeking that information.
Okay, because I mean the reason that these questions are being asked is because there has been a failure of regulation here. I mean, people I know today have asked questions about whether, in fact, there should be more laws, but I think the average person would look at the many hundreds of corporations laws in the books here and say, well, why wasn't the corporate cop able to enforce the law in relation to conflicted payments? Why wasn't the corporate cop able to enforce the law in relation to directors' duties and the proper functioning of these regulated entities in relation to managed funds and the like? I don't think they're unreasonable questions. So, I mean, has the government put any emphasis or had any interest in whether or not we can get better law enforcement?
Well, I think both the current minister and former minister did a lot of work on modernising and strengthening ASIC to ensure that it is an effective and efficient regulator. We've, I think, had to clean up the mess in the business registers, which turned into something that cost 5 times the original estimate. There's further work going on about cyber uplifting data and cyber security capabilities and combating illegal phoenixing. So I think it is fair to say there has been a lot of work done to ensure we're modernising and strengthening the regulator. And as you say, it is an important regulator. But on the issues that you raise about your report, if I can get further information around responding to those specific things, I would note that the government senators in relation to that report did provide additional comments on that report and didn't agree with your recommendation or the Chair's recommendation around breaking ASIC up.
So how do you think ASIC's going? Is it going well?
This isn't my portfolio area, but I believe it's an efficient and effective regulator, and I also accept that regulators, opinions on regulators will differ across the board, and I accept that you have a pretty strong view of your own around ASIC.
Well, I don't really, other than we did do a body of work in this parliament which chewed up a lot of resources, which ran for over a year, which heard from hundreds of different people, and which made recommendations that ASIC was not effective at enforcing the existing laws on the books. Subsequent to that, we had first...
Senator Bragg. That was not the view of the dissenting members of the committee, of which I was one, and you could have efficiently done that through the Corporations of Financial Services, which oversees that entity. It's your choice.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. It's great. Thanks for the update. So the point is that the Senate has tabled a report outlining that there were clear deficiencies with the enforcement record of the corporate cop, and I note that subsequent to that, First Guardian, Shield and Lion all saw billions of dollars of losses, a huge loss of people's mental health and financial resources for frankly quite simple provisions like around, is ASIC going to be able to enforce conflicted payments laws? Is ASIC going to be able to ensure that there aren't fraudulent actions taken by directors? Because in some of these cases, some of these people shouldn't have been running these type of schemes. So I guess it's pretty cold comfort to hear you say that you think it's efficient and effective, because the last year has seen a lot of Australians in hell because of the failure of ASIC to respond in an adequate timeline. I mean, in all these cases, they had a lot of warning. So I guess I ask you again, do you think ASIC is doing a good job?
Well, I've answered that, and I don't think, the reason we have a regulator is unfortunately because, we need, protection for consumers from bad actors. I don't think you can blame ASIC for the fact that there are bad actors, which is seemingly what you're trying to do here. I accept there'll always be views around regulators and how they're performing their job, but from my point of view, I think they are an efficient and effective regulator. I think there are ways that we can continue to work with them and strengthen and modernise them, and that is work that's underway. And I think the opportunity for an incoming chair, along with a renewed statement of expectations, will provide that clear guidance and continued leadership. But I would also say there were a lot of, the government senators, and I note Senator O'Neill's comments here, did make additional comments in that report criticising your report for oversimplification of complex issues, failing to take a balanced approach to considering evidence on ASIC's remit, and failing to provide any detail on how a breakup of ASIC should occur. So, it's not fair to say that your view is the view of the Senate.
I didn't say that.
Well, I think you're trying to...
My point was that even the government senators raised issues in their report about the way that ASIC was conducting its affairs. I didn't, just for the record, I wasn't proposing in any way that the government senators agreed with me. I'm saying that they outlined their own concerns. And my point here is not to be difficult, but just to make the point that there was a report done, irrespective of its content. Surely the government should respond to it.
I agree with that, Senator Bragg.
Okay.
And as I said, if I have something more to provide, I will.
So when will that be?
When will what be?
Well, according to the letters we've exchanged, you didn't have a draft report
Well,
to
I've said,
respond to
if I
ASIC
can
back
provide,
in
if I can
September.
get
So,
any further information on this, I will update the committee.
so will that be today?
Well, if I get that information, yes.
Okay.